Welcome back, friends, to another budget meal video. So today we are tackling Thanksgiving. We are doing turkey stuffing, mashed potatoes, gravy, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, dressing, cranberry sauce, and of course we had to have sweet potato pie. We're doing mini sweet potato pie. Guys, this entire meal came in at $23.50. I will have the shopping list and the price breakdown at the end of the video, so stay tuned and let's get into it. Okay, friends, so these are the ingredients that we're going to be needing for our Thanksgiving dinner. So let me move you on a little closer. Okay, so we're going to need Hungry Jack mashed potatoes, and I'll include all the prices and such in the description box or on a card as we go through. This is Jiffy corn muffin mix. You're going to need half a gallon of milk. I actually have less than half a gallon. Half a gallon is the one that you can find in the stores. I don't know that you can find a quart anymore like you used to be able to back in the day, but yeah, so here's less than half a gallon, but you're going to buy half a gallon if it's available. If not, use the milk in your refrigerator because we're not going to use a whole bunch of milk, but half a gallon is what's easier to find. Then we have Fiesta cheese blend, and this is half of a bag, so this is 32 ounces, and it normally comes in 16 ounces or 8 ounces. We're going to only use the amount that is for 220, so I have to look at that. I believe it's 8 ounces, so we're only going to be using 8 ounces, and I'm going to weigh all that stuff just to make sure. Then these cheese slices, that's about $1.29 at Aldi's. American cheese, 16. Because we're on a budget, we're going to be using the Imperial butter sticks, not real butter. Then of course we're going to be using sweet potatoes. I have a 3-pound bag, but I'm only going to be using about 1 pound out of this. So if you can get a couple of sweet potatoes, you don't need to buy this whole bag, just 1 pound of sweet potatoes. And then these right now in Walmart are 50 cents. These are the penne ziti, and this is 16 ounces, and they're 50 cents right now at Walmart. I went to a couple Walmarts and they were all 50 cents. And then of course we have our corn, and of course we have our stuffing mix. I already have stuffing mix. I just went ahead and measured this out and I'll weigh it for you. But this is about 6 ounces and 70 cents at Walmart. Then we have cranberry sauce, because you got to have cranberry sauce. I mean, I was gonna not include it, but it's Thanksgiving, we got to have cranberry sauce. And then I bought these, and this is actually in a haul that I did. One can is actually 6 servings, but we're going to do 2 cans because I'm going to show you that this all can serve for 12 people. And then frozen veggies. These are my frozen veggies, and remember, this is about $1 for, I think it's more in the bag that you would buy at Dollar Tree, but we're going to just use what I have here. And then I have half a dozen eggs. If you can find half a dozen, you can buy half a dozen. If not, you would have to buy a dozen. And then of course rice. We're going to need rice because we're going to make that stuffing that I have a video of. So that's just regular rice. We're not going to use all this. I'm only going to use a couple cups, but you'll see. And then of course the infamous turkey. My turkey is going to be brining, that's why it's upside down. And this was a 13.2 pound turkey, and I actually am going to include a clip of me actually going to weigh it because I could not find the tag to show how much this turkey was. It's 68 cents per pound at Aldi, and that's a pretty good deal, so I'll include that to show you how much it weighed. And I'm going to be brining it in this. I bought this after Thanksgiving last year at, I believe, Home Goods, and see, it's $1, was $3.99. It doesn't expire until 2022, so yeah, right on time. And then the giblets and stuff that I pulled out of the turkey, I actually put in a pot, and I'm gonna make a broth out of it. So I pulled off the skin off the top part, and I also pulled out all the innards, and I'm gonna be pulling out the neck as well right before I brine this. And I'm going to be making a broth out of that, so that's a good amount of water in there. And we're going to be making a broth with any veggies I find in the freezer. So yeah, so I'll be back to show you how I'm going to brine this real quick. Okay, so the things I do for you guys, since I cannot figure out where the thing is for the price of this turkey. So it's 13.2 pounds at 68 cents per pound. Okay, so here's a shot of the turkey before I take it out. I'm gonna thaw it. I just want to show you what it looked like in my pan, and I'll be back. Okay, so here we have our turkey, of course. I'm gonna go ahead and brine this. It is gonna brine for about 12 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and put the brine in here, and then about partway through, I'm gonna flip it over. So, like I said, I'm gonna be using this. And if you don't have a brine, that's fine. You can just use lemon, lime, some salt, whatever you have. If you have veggies or what, not veggies, but like onions and stuff to throw inside here, and just let it sit. And my water is warm. So the ingredients here, let me see if I can focus in. But I'm gonna read them to you. It's just salt, sugar, rosemary, sage, thyme, peppercorn, fennel, coriander, I'm sorry, dehydrated vegetables. So I'm just gonna pour that in here. I'm gonna pour the whole thing inside here. So we're just gonna let that, it's bubbling and doing its thing. So we're gonna let this sit for about 12 hours in this brine. And like I said, if you don't have brine, you can pretty much, this sounds like the same things that's in Italian seasoning. So Italian seasoning, salt and sugar, you can use that and brine your turkey. And it is 11.4 ounces. It's called Sutter Butts, whatever it is. That's 11.4 ounces of brining spices. So I'm just gonna stir that around. I have a knife right here, so that's what I'm gonna use to stir that around. No, we're not professional around here. We just do what we can with what we have. Yeah, and then we'll come back and I'll flip this in about 6 hours. And we'll go from there. Let me make sure I cover this. So I'm gonna want to make sure I showed you guys that I covered it. So it's covered, and it's in the same pan that I'm gonna bake it in, because we ain't trying to have no extra dishes. So we'll be back. Okay guys, so here's my broth, and I'm just throwing a couple of cloves of garlic and onions that I had left over, and of course I'm gonna put some salt and let that cook. So here's my potatoes. I'm just trying to measure it out to figure out what combination equals 1 pound out of the potatoes. And here I'm just scrubbing my potatoes. I want to make sure I scrub them really, really good, get all the dirt and anything that's on them. And then I'm going to transfer them to a pot. I'm going to put them on the stove to cook. And while they're cooking for about 30 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and rinse off my rice. And you want to just keep rinsing it until it runs clear. And I'm rinsing it and I'm straining. And there I have 2 cups of rice, and I'm going to put 4 cups of water. And I'm going to take this over to my rice cooker. And of course you want to salt to taste. And while that's cooking, I'm over here looking at my broth, and I'm going to go ahead and scrape off all that residue that's at the top. Now let me let you guys know, this is like real-time cooking, so this is not going to be any particular order. This is just how I cook this day. So you'll see me running back and forth to different things, but it'll all come together at the end, and all the recipes will be included down below. So here I'm just making my cornbread for my dressing, and I have a link to that dressing down below. Here I'm just checking on my rice, and this rice is for the stuffing, and of course that'll also be linked below. So I'm just going to let that cool. I'm going to fluff it up just to help it cool a little bit faster. So while that's cooling, I'm back over here with my broth, and the water has reduced. I'm going to add about 4 more quarts of water. So in total, I used about 7 quarts of water here. So there's my potatoes just cooking along. So far, these 2 are done. These 2 sweet potatoes are done. This one is still cooking because it was a little bit bigger. Can you see it? So that's back there. I'm making a mess just to show y'all what's going on. And then this I put on a warm stove because remember the cornbread was actually cooking in there. So it's been brining on the stove. Alright, so that's what it looks like so far, and we'll come back. Okay, so I'm going to drain this. These are cooked, and I'm actually going to use these drain. Here's our stock. And we'll be back. Okay, so here's my giblets, which is also the packet that's in the top of the turkey. I'm just going to cut that up. I let that cook inside the broth, so that's what flavored my broth. And I'm going to add this to the dressing. This is so good in the dressing. Usually I cook the turkey neck, but I'm using that for something else that's not included in this video. So I'm just dicing them really fine. And I'm just showing you what they look like once they're diced. And you want to make sure they're cooked really well and cut really small. So here I'm just going to go ahead and melt some butter for my dressing. And this is a little trick, so I'm going to come back and show you guys. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the top of the butter on top of the butter so it doesn't splatter while it's in the microwave. And here's my cornbread once it was already cooked and dried. And like I said, I have the recipe linked down below. And here I'm just measuring out 6 ounces of breadcrumbs to equal what I would have gotten at Walmart. So I lost a clip of me putting in all my seasonings, but these are all the usual suspects. So I did find some poultry seasoning, by the way. If you watched my last video on the dressing, you would know that I did not have any poultry seasoning. So it's just veggies and all the good stuff. The only difference between this dressing and the last dressing is that I'm adding sugar to this recipe, and I'm able to add more giblets and more veggies because I incorporated what I had. We don't like to waste food. So here I'm just pouring my broth in. And you'll notice that there's canned mushroom in here because I switched out the other pack of collard greens for the cream of mushroom. I forgot I needed it. So there I added 2 eggs. I'm just whipping everything around. And there's no need to take out the lumps because we need these lumps because that's all flavor. So I just sprayed my baking pan. I'm just pouring all of that mixture in. And this is going to go in the oven for about 45 minutes at 400 degrees. And you can cover it, but it's not going to be dry at all. So here I'm going to go ahead and start my stuffing. So I'm just going ahead and put my rice. And like I said, I have the recipe linked below. This is actually a variation of the apple stuffing that I have on my channel. So here I'm just seasoning. I'm just putting some veggies and I'm putting all the usual seasonings. And this was the 2 cups of rice cooked. So of course I added garlic powder, Italian seasoning, parsley, poultry seasoning, paprika, complete seasoning. And this is all to taste. You use whatever you have. That's why I'm not really picky on what I'm putting in here. And of course I'm adding some cayenne. And I added quite a bit of paprika because I like the color. And color, like I said in a lot of my other videos, you eat with your eyes. So color and presentation is everything. So that's why I added so much paprika here. So here I'm going to add some black pepper as well. I'm just grinding that in there. And then I'm going to add the stuffing mix, and I added half the stuffing in the dressing and half the stuffing mix goes here. And then you'll see me add a little bit of broth. Now how much you add is up to you. This is going to go in the pan with the turkey to cook, so there's no need to add too much. So here I'm just pouring off the brine for my turkey, and I'm going to go ahead and rinse down the turkey. And I'm going to rinse out my pan as well. My sink is clean and it will be cleaned afterwards. So you just want to make sure you get all that brine out because it is very salty, and we are going to season this turkey even though it's been sitting in the brine. So this is me just rinsing out the pan. The pan has only had the turkey in it, so it's nothing else that I'm washing on top of the turkey. I'm just washing the brine back out of the pan. And now I'm going to wash the brine off of the turkey. And you just want to make sure you get it really good. You don't have to get everything off because, I mean, all it is seasoning. So here I am just rinsing my turkey. Making sure I get inside. And if there's anything weird that you forgot to get out the inside, make sure you do that now. And like I said, I'm going to be flipping my turkey over to cook, and this will ensure a moist turkey. And here I am just spraying out my sink, and I'm going to let that sit. That's Lysol, so I will let that sit in the sink. And here I'm just stuffing my turkey with butter underneath the skin. And that will help also to ensure that the turkey is moist. And I'm going to go ahead and melt that butter. And while that's melting, I'm going to add some complete seasoning, garlic powder, onion powder, all my usual suspects, some black pepper, poultry seasoning. And I'm being very generous with these seasonings because this has to flavor my gravy. This is going to flavor the stuffing I'm going to put with it. And I'm putting quite a bit of paprika for color. And there's some Cajun seasoning. And then I'm going to put soy sauce. Yes, soy sauce. And this gives it a really, really good flavor. And there's my melted butter. And I'm just going to work everything in. And I'm going to flip it over. And I'm just going to put some more complete seasoning. I'm not going to put any more salt or anything because that's at the bottom of the pan. And remember, I'm going to flip my turkey over to cook. Now, this was a lemon that I found that was in my fruit basket. And for some reason, it was molded on the top. So I just cut the mold off, honey, and squeezed that right on in there and stuffed it inside the turkey. So I'm going to take some of those veggies and I'm going to go ahead and stuff that in the turkey. I have some dried thyme. I'm going to stuff that in the turkey as well. And some dried bay leaves. So anything you have sitting around the house, honey, stuff that turkey with it. This is a good way to get rid of stuff that you got inside your refrigerator that you need to get rid of. Apples, oranges, whatever. Okay, so to my pan, I'm going to go ahead and add some butter and some milk. And this is going to be the start of our macaroni and cheese. So my pasta is over there boiling away. And you're going to make that according to the package instructions. So here I'm just adding my American cheese and I'm going to let all that melt together. And I had to put some water to this mustard. So this isn't a whole bunch of mustard. This is about a tablespoon of mustard, but I had to put water inside the container because I was all out. So I'm just going to whisk that around and I'm going to let it sit on very, very low and cook. So I'm going to add some garlic powder and some onion powder. And of course some complete seasoning. This is a very simple mac and cheese recipe. So this is what that looks like after it's sat on low for about 20 minutes. And you just want to whisk it occasionally. You want to make sure nothing's sticking and nothing's curdling. So here I'm just adding my pasta. I did not rinse my pasta after I washed it because it needs that starch to help thicken up this mixture. Now it looks runny now, but once it sits, it starts to thicken and this is set for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and add some chicken bouillon to it. And the reason why I'm letting it sit is because I'm going to add egg to it. It's going to go in the oven and you don't want your egg to curdle. So here's my baking dish and I'm just going to go ahead and spray that down. But first I'm showing you what the macaroni and cheese looks like once it's sat for a little while. It started to soak up the liquid. So you want to make sure you have more liquid to pasta. It looks runny, but trust me, it will thicken up. And there I beat 2 eggs and I'm just pouring it on top and I'm going to mix it in. And because this is a budget macaroni and cheese, we're going to go ahead and add our cheese here and we're going to kind of fold it in. Because we only have a limited amount of cheese, we're going to put some inside and we're going to put some on top. Now, if this was a down-home macaroni and cheese, this would have cost $25. This would have been our whole budget. But this is a low-budget mac and cheese that is just as delicious. And nobody's going to miss any of the extra cheese. So I'm just sprinkling the cheese on top. If you have extra breadcrumbs, you could put that on here too. So I'm going to take some aluminum foil and I'm going to spray the top with some nonstick spray and I'm going to stick that in the oven. And I'm going to let that sit in the oven at 375 degrees for about 40 minutes covered. And that's because I want the egg to cook. And my dressing is all done. I'm just letting that sit and hang out and kind of cool down. So while that's cooling, I'm going to go ahead and work on my potatoes that have cooked. So I'm just getting the potatoes and see, this is the easy way. And back in the day, I used to cut the potatoes up, peel them and all that stuff. If you boil them like this, it makes it so much easier. There's no need to cut or anything. So here's my 3 potatoes and I'm just adding some butter, some sugar, and I have some brown sugar. If you have brown sugar, fine. If you don't, no need. I'm going to add a little salt, some ginger. And if you have pumpkin pie spice or apple pie spice, this is good here. So I'm adding some nutmeg, some cinnamon. And this is allspice. And I'm going to add vanilla. So if you have any type of spices that are in your cabinet, you want to go ahead and put that in here. And I'm just mixing this around with the mixer, but this is so soft. You could use a fork and mix this, but I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. And there I just put 1 egg. And I just want to make sure that everything's nice and smooth. And here I'm tasting it to make sure everything's good. And I found that it needed a little bit more sugar. And that salt that I put in is going to balance out that sugar. So I'm just going to whisk it around again. And all the measurements will be down below. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a little flour. That's about a tablespoon of flour. Now, if you were going to make a pie, this will be perfect for 1 pie. But I'm going to make 12 mini pies. And here I have some pie crust that I bought for 25 cents after the last Thanksgiving. So I have about 12 of them still hanging out in the freezer. I'm just showing you different things that you could use instead of the pie crust. So here I'm just spraying down a muffin pan. And here I'm just pulling apart my pie shells. Now listen, I am not a perfectionist. I like rustic looking things. I put together what I can. So I'm just putting this pie shell piece by piece inside here. And it actually turned out really, really pretty. So I was just pulling it apart because I wasn't going to sit there and measure it and try to figure out how to get the perfect circumference of a pie shell versus a muffin dish ratio. No ma'am, we have no time for that. We're trying to get this on the table. So I just put everything in where it fit. And this actually turned out really, really good. So I think I will do this again. So I'm going to do 6 of these with the pie crust. I'm going to do 6 with cupcake liners. So if you have cupcake liners, you can use them. If you don't, you can always just spray down the pan really, really good. And you can actually put the mixture in there because it will hold. Now, how you get it out, I don't know. So you want to make sure you have some type of liner. You can use parchment paper, or just spray down the pan really good. Or you could turn this into a sweet potato casserole if you like. So this recipe is good for a pie, a casserole. So I'm just showing you what everything looks like. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put my mixture into each one of these shells and into the liners. So you're just going to fill them to where you feel comfortable. And these mini pies were so good. They were so good. And I enjoyed eating the ones without the shell as well, because you can just peel off that liner, put some whipped cream on top of that, or some ice cream. Oh my gosh, it is so good. Okay, so I bought some marshmallows earlier in the year from Walmart on one of my hauls. And while I'm getting ready to put that in the oven, let's go ahead and check on this macaroni and cheese. This is looking bubbly. You could have went ahead and pulled that out right then. So I'm also going to check on my turkey, and I'm flipping it over. And I'm going to pour out some of the liquid because this is going to be my gravy. So that mac and cheese is all done, nice and bubbly. I wish I would have cut it there so you can see how nice and cheesy it was. But of course, I'm cooking everything else. I need to take some pictures for the thumbnail. So here is also my mini pie. So set in the oven for about 25 minutes at 400 degrees. And here I'm just taking everything out, and this was actually really easy to come out. I was actually shocked on how easy it was to come out. I'm just showing you what it looks like. They were so cute. Can you imagine them topped with marshmallows or even some whipped cream? Oh my gosh, they were so cute, and they were even better when you ate them. They were so good. So I'm just taking them out and put them on a cooling rack so that they can cool. You do not want them to cool in the pan because they will start to get soft, so you don't want to do that. So here I'm just showing you what they look like once they're out. Super cute, super festive. And even your pickiest eater will love these. They're so good. I'm not a pumpkin pie girl, but sweet potato is where it is for me. So here I'm turning my attention over to the gravy. I'm just scraping off all of the excess oil. Yes, you will get some of the liquid out, but there is so much broth in there that it doesn't even matter. So here I'm just showing you that I'm going to use some cornstarch and water, and I'm just using equal parts to thicken up this gravy. There's no need to add any more seasoning here because this is perfectly seasoned, and I'm just going ahead and stirring everything rapidly. You want to make sure you keep stirring until you turn off the heat. And I have 2 spoons, yes, because I wanted to check the consistency, but I have a slotted spoon as well. So I'm stirring with the slotted spoon and checking the consistency with another spoon. That's just my quick way of doing things. So here I'm just going to go ahead and strain the gravy because I did not strain it when I poured it in the pot. And I'm just showing you how nice and smooth and thick it is. And it'll start to thicken as it sits over to the side, so you don't want to put too much cornstarch. So here I'm turning my attention over to this canned collard greens. These are actually really, really good. So I drained them and I went ahead and added some of the turkey broth to it. Then I added my usual suspects, some garlic powder, some onion powder. And then of course I add about a teaspoon of sugar, and I'm adding chicken broth. Pour some vinegar, and like I said, all the measurements to jazz this up will be down below. This is one way to make canned collard greens taste like they're fresh. Nothing's like fresh collard greens, but this is close enough. So here I'm turning my attention to the mashed potatoes. So this is simple because it's a boxed mashed potato. And this actually is not taking too much time, believe it or not. This Thanksgiving dinner did not take too much time at all. This is a quick, easy way to do Thanksgiving. So to my milk, this is about 3 cups of milk that I poured in here, and I'm throwing about 4 cups of the chicken broth, and I'm putting a whole stick of butter in it. And I'm just whisking everything around. And like I said, I'm cooking in real time here, so I just checked out my collard greens. This doesn't take much time at all. I'm just showing you how delicious this looks. You don't want to overcook this. It is already cooked. You just want to flavor it. So I'm turning my attention back over to my mashed potatoes. So once everything starts to boil and gets hot, you just want to add your mashed potatoes. You can follow the box directions, but I find that the addition of the broth makes this a whole nother level. So I'm just mixing and stirring and adding in what I need to. And I'll just continue to do that until I get a smooth consistency. And then if you run out of broth, you can just go ahead and put water. And if you have more milk, you can do that. And then you want to taste it for salt, but because that broth was nice and salted, you probably don't need any. So here is my turkey. The turkey is almost done. I want this to be as close to done as possible before I put this rice in here. Now, I left some liquid at the bottom of the turkey because that's going to help to cook this rice a little bit more. The rice is not fully cooked, and you want to also hydrate the dried stuffing mix. So I'm just going to stick that back in the oven after I pour some broth on top of the turkey and the stuffing, and I'm going to stick that back in the oven for about 15 minutes because the turkey's almost done. My turkey cooked for about 2 to 2.5 hours. I cannot remember, but that little red thing will tell you when it's done. So once I checked on it, I went ahead and turned it on broil just around the top because it was cooked, and you'll see the little thing popped up, so it was nice and cooked, and you can check the internal temperature. And then I just plated everything up, and I'm just showing what everything looks like, guys. This was a delicious meal on a budget. Yes, you can do a delicious Southern Thanksgiving on a budget, and that turkey was so juicy. I was trying to get in there to show you, but the camera would not do it justice. And this is my plate. Everything was so good, so delicious, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm just showing you my little sweet potato thing. It was so good. And I'm showing you what everything looked like once I cut into it. But yeah, guys, here's the shopping list. And again, friends, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I hope that you would subscribe. And until the next video, guys, bye.